Thank you for joining me at Tantrum House Studio D. I'm Melissa Delp. Have you ever wanted to take beautiful pictures of the nature around you? You can learn how in this How to Play video for Panorama. Panorama is a card drafting, tableau building card game for 1 to 6 players that takes about 30 to 60 minutes to play. It's designed by Alex Winter and illustrated by Dan May. The publisher, Sparkworks, sponsored this How to Play video. I'm going to cover setup, gameplay, and scoring. The video has timestamps to help you navigate to each section. First, prepare each deck for your player count. There is a dusk deck used in Phase 1 and a dawn deck used in Phase 2. If you're playing with 3 or 4 players, remove the cards marked with a 5 or 6 on the bottom corner. With 5 players, just remove the cards marked with a 6. And with 6 players, use all the cards. Now, set aside the dawn deck. You're just going to use the dusk deck for this phase. Shuffle the dusk deck and deal cards face down to each player. The number of cards is determined by player count. For 3 players, it's 12 cards, for 4 players, 10 cards, and for 5 and 6 players, 9 cards. Place any remaining cards aside. They won't be used during the game. Give the first player marker to the person who most recently saw a wild animal. Shuffle the award tiles face down and randomly choose 4. Place them face up in the middle of the table. Now that everything is set up, you're ready to learn how to play. The information I'm giving is for the 3 to 6 player game. There are variant rules in the rulebook for 1 and 2 players, but I'm not going to cover those in this video. In Panorama, you'll be working with the player on your left and the player on your right to build the highest scoring panoramas of cards. The game is played in 2 phases, the dusk phase and then the dawn phase. Each phase is played in the same way. You'll have a number of rounds equal to the number of cards in the player's hands. In a round, players will simultaneously choose a card to play, then play that card in turn order, and finally pass the remaining cards in their hand to the player on their left. Let's look at those steps more closely using the dusk cards, which you should have dealt to the players during setup. At the beginning of each round, all the players, at the same time, choose 1 card from their hand that they want to play and put it face down in front of them. Then each player, starting with the person with the first player token and going clockwise, takes their turn. On your turn, you place the card you selected in the panorama on your left or the panorama on your right. A panorama is a line of cards between 2 players. So for this panorama, I'm working with the player on my left, and for this one, I'm working with the player on my right. If you're playing with 5 players, there will be 5 panoramas. In the beginning of the game, a lot of players will be placing the first card in a panorama. In that case, any card can be placed. But once there are cards in the panoramas, you have to follow a few placement rules. The card has to go on one of the ends of a panorama. So there are 4 potential spots for your card, on either end of the panorama to your left or either end of the panorama to your right. Another rule is that the background landscape on your card has to match the landscape you're placing it next to. Each card has a background landscape that is low, medium, or high. When you place cards next to each other, the landscape heights have to match. Medium to medium works, but not medium to low or medium to high. Those are the 2 main placement rules. Put your selected card on the end of one of your neighboring panoramas and make sure the landscape heights match. It sounds pretty simple, but there are scoring decisions to keep in mind, which I'll explain later in the video. And remember, you're choosing the card you're going to play at the beginning of the round, before you see anyone else's choice. If your turn is later in the round, your neighbors might play cards where you were planning to play. If you cannot play your card because there aren't any matching landscape heights, you have to play it face down instead of face up. It can go on any of the ends, and later, any card can be put next to it. It automatically matches all the landscape heights. After everyone has played their selected card, you finish the round by passing your remaining hand of cards to the player to your left. The starting player also passes the starting player token. You'll keep playing rounds following those 3 steps until all the cards that were dealt have been played. So then you've finished the dusk phase. But you're not going to score your panoramas yet. Just set them aside until final scoring. Start the dawn phase by taking the dawn deck and dealing cards based on your player count. Then you'll play exactly like you did during the dusk phase. The biggest difference is that the cards have different scoring requirements. So let's talk about scoring. You have opportunities to score in 2 main ways, by winning award tiles and by placing the cards in your panoramas in specific arrangements. The cards have a colored icon to show what type they are. The green icons are for features and the orange icons are animals. Some cards have both a feature and an animal. You'll also see the type represented in the art. Here's how the dusk cards score. The Northern Lights cards score 3 points for having an adjacent pair of Northern Lights. These 2 are worth 3 points. If you have 3 in a row, the middle card can count for both pairs, so this would be a total of 6 points. The Bear cards score 2 points for having a tree next to it. With trees on both sides, you can score 4 points. The Moose cards score 2 points for not having animals next to it. You can score a maximum of 4 points per moose. Watch out for cards that have a feature and an animal. In this configuration, the moose is only worth 2 points. The Cliff cards score 3 points if there is a feature to its right. Be careful. You'll lose 2 points if there is an animal next to it on the left. The Campfire cards score 1 point for each animal in the 4 spaces next to it, 2 cards to the right and 2 cards to the left. So you could score a maximum of 4 points for each campfire. The Moon cards score 2 points. You don't have to do anything, but each panorama can have only 1 moon. Extra moon cards would have to go face down. There are also tree and fox cards in the deck. These do not score on their own, but they can be requirements for other cards and awards to score. The cards in the dawn deck score differently, so you'll need a different strategy in the second phase. The Lake cards score 2 points for having an animal to its right and 2 points for a feature to its left. You can score a maximum of 4 points for each lake. The Mountain cards score as a group for the total amount you have in your panorama. You can score a maximum of 8 points total for having 4 or more mountain cards. The mountains don't need to be next to each other. The Ranger Station cards score 2 points for having face-down cards next to it. You can score a maximum of 4 points for each Ranger Station. The Watchtower cards score points for having cards in certain positions. You'll score 1 point each for the second and third card to its right and left that match the shown configuration. Each Watchtower card is worth a maximum of 4 points. The Sun cards score 1 point for every 2 cards to its left, so 5 cards to the left would score 2 points. Like the Moon cards, you can have only 1 Sun card in each panorama. Those are all the scoring cards. The other way to gain points is by winning award tiles. At the beginning of the game, you randomly select 4 and place them face up for everyone to see. For the tiles that score the most or least of something, you're counting the icons in your panorama, not the number of times it is illustrated in the artwork. The Treescape tile is awarded to the panoramas with the most trees, while the Clearview tile goes to the ones with the fewest trees. The Originality tile is awarded to panoramas that don't have any duplicate features. The Fox Friend tile is awarded to the panoramas with the most foxes. and the outfox tile goes to the panoramas with the fewest foxes. Wide angle is for the longest panoramas, and in focus for the shortest. The eagle eye tile is awarded to the panoramas with the most watchtowers. The wildlife award goes to panoramas with an animal on every card. And finally, the naturalist tile is awarded to the panoramas with the most natural features. Watchtowers, campfires, and ranger stations do not count. Even though their icons are green, they aren't natural features. All scoring takes place at the end of the game, after you've finished the dawn phase. So let's move to final scoring. After you've completed both phases, dusk and dawn, you should have 4 panoramas next to you, a dusk and dawn to your right, and a dusk and dawn to your left. Your score will be the total value of all 4 of these panoramas. The first thing you score is the award tiles. For each tile, determine which panoramas meet the requirements. You're looking at all of the panoramas, not just your own. If multiple panoramas meet the requirements, each one earns the points. It's possible for several of your panoramas to score the same tile. After awarding all the tiles, count up the point values of your panoramas. This panorama is worth 16 points. 5 points for having 3 mountains, 3 points for having 6 cards to the left of the sun, 2 points for the ranger station being next to a face-down card, 4 points for the lake being next to an animal and a feature, and 2 points for the moose not having an animal next to it. So you and your partner would score 16 points for this panorama, plus whatever points your dusk panorama scored. For your total score, you'll also add the 2 scores from the panoramas you built with your other partner. Also add any points from award tiles that your panoramas earned. Whoever has the most points has taken the best panoramic shots and has won the game. So that's how you play Panorama. Will you capture an award-winning shot full of animals and natural beauty? Thank you for joining me at Tantrum House Studio D. I'm Melissa Delp. Have you ever wanted to take beautiful pictures of nature around you? The nature around you. Okay, I think it is gonna bother me that it's tilted. I feel like my head's gonna tilt.
Which way is it tilt? Did you go that down here?
Yes.
Like that?
Yes. Sorry. I'm just like, I'm gonna be like this the whole time. Until all the cards that were dealt have been played. Why did I mess up right there at the end?